look, I want to jump right in here. And I believe what we're going to do is we're going to start with the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Mike Rogers, who is asking the former CIA director, Michael Morell, about the change in talking points and a video-inspired protest versus a terrorist attack, or a video-inspired protest that grew into a terrorist attack. This concerns references to Al-Qaeda being removed from the talking points. Here is the chairman's exchange with the former CIA director. Roll it.
Just as I had given the deputies a heads up that this was an issue, I told the deputies orally that the analysts had looked at the issue and that they were sticking with their judgment that there had been a protest.
And so with all of your training, all of your experience, your gut reaction, did you believe that was the right decision?
So I believed what my analysts said, that there was a protest. I also believed it to be a terrorist attack. You see, we never saw those two things as mutually exclusive. And so I believed both of those at the same time.
Knowing what you know now, would you have been surprised that many of the eyewitnesses that we've talked to said they were surprised by the narrative on Sunday, I think the 16th? They were shocked. Members of your organization that were, I think the word was shocked.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised by that, quite frankly, because if they were members of my organization, then they would have seen the analysis written on the 13th that said there was a protest and said the attack evolved spontaneously from the protest. So if they were shocked on Sunday when they heard that, they should have been shocked on Thursday the 13th when they read it.
Buzz, is Michael Morell telling the truth?
Well, Crane, the answer to that question it can be a little bit complicated. It depends on whose point of view you're asking. I think probably from his perspective, he thinks that he is telling the truth. But if we had access to all the information, to all the communications, if we were a fly on the wall that evening in the White House Situation Room, in the Oval Office, at the CIA headquarters, I think we would probably be able to, with evidence, conclude that no, he's not. And I think, it gets a little subjective here, because what probably happened is that the analysts may have drawn that conclusion, but I know from my personal experience that sometimes you know what your boss wants to hear and you know what your boss doesn't want to hear. And during a high-stakes presidential campaign, I have no doubt in my mind that Mike Morell could have looked his analysts in the eye, wink, wink, nod, nod. Are you sure that you want to conclude that Al-Qaeda was behind this attack? Are you sure that Islamic extremists were behind this attack? I mean, you could see ways that pressure would be applied where he could be technically telling the truth, that yes, the analysts concluded that, but how did they get to that conclusion? And that's what we don't really understand, and that's probably what we'll never know unless some analyst with great courage is willing to come out of their career that they've been building their whole life in the CIA undercover and step forward and tell us exactly what happened. And, we still don't know who made the final changes to the talking points.
That was interesting. I want to address that, but real quick, before that, pardon me for interrupting here, but we have the analysts, part of the bureaucracy, versus the statement from fallen ambassador killed, Chris Stevens, along with 3 other Americans. Gregory Hicks, the top guy there, said they knew it was a terrorist attack from the get-go. didn't speak to protests about a YouTube video. So you just described, you said, oh yeah, the analysts back home, bureaucracy here, they have that. But they also, that would contradict, seemingly, the evidence they had from Gregory Hicks. And in that, we have Michelle Bachmann yesterday asking those very questions. And maybe you can help us understand this exchange, because what I see is obfuscation from Michael Morell and Michelle Bachmann, Representative Bachmann.
A little different there, yeah.
Yes. Is trying to say, look, stop playing games to the door that we cannot see behind. I know the intel behind closed doors. I know the intel before the American people. I know the limits. Here is that exchange. Roll it.
Let me actually give you the facts of what the State Department changed in those talking points and what the White House changed. The White House changed three things. The first thing the White House changed was to add Cairo in front of the word embassy for the sake of clarity. The second thing the White House changed was to rearrange a couple of sentences, purely stylistic. The third thing the White House changed was to change the word consulate to diplomatic post for accuracy. Those were the only changes the White House made. The changes the State Department made, just two. They too wanted to change the word consulate to diplomatic post for exactly the same reason. The second change the State Department made was to remove the entire bullet on Ansar al-Sharia, because State Department said it was premature to single out a specific group, and the CIA agreed because the only unclassified evidence we had at the time was Ansar al-Sharia's public statement, which they then retracted. So the State Department and the White House made 5 changes only, all of them, in my view, fairly insignificant.
Mr. Morell, they didn't have to change because you made the changes for them.
The changes...
That's the point. That's why you're in front of this committee today. You made significant substantive changes for the White House. Whether it was on behalf, we don't know, but we know you are the one who made those changes.
Ma'am, if you look at the record, what you will see is the changes I made were fully consistent with what our analysts believed at the time, period.
The analysts that were part of the bureaucracy, not the individuals who are on the ground who had eyewitness testimony and who as early as September 12th had sent you a cable that it was not a protest, that it was in fact an attack. Those were intentionally ignored.
So ma'am, do you believe...
So I know we're in the weeds, and I think that is a strategy to make this as difficult to understand as possible. But as Brian Preston points out in Pajamas Media, Morell testified that a group of intelligence officers from the Office of Congressional Affairs and CIA Public Affairs removed reference to Al-Qaeda from the talking points given to Congress. Morell testified that he changed the talking points himself as well and removed Islamic from description of the Islamic militants who assaulted the facility because, quote, what other kind of extremists are there in Libya? He also admitted to making the change so as not to, quote, further aflame, unquote, passions in the Muslim world. He also admitted that he was aware of what Gregory Hicks said, that there was never a protest. So what's the... Boil this down for us, Buzz.
And add one more to the list, Crane.
Yeah.
Morell told John McCain and Lindsey Graham soon after the attack that the FBI changed the talking points. So even at, who changed the talking point? We still don't really know at the end of the day who was responsible for it. And the reason for that is because it's never going to have been put in writing. I guarantee you it happened all over classified phones from the White House to the CIA. Hey, Mike, you remember General Petraeus' troubles. We know that there's going to be probably going to be an opening here at the CIA pretty soon. I'm not saying if you change these, you're going to get awarded you're not going to be made director. But if there was ever a time when we really needed some support and help over at the CIA, this would be it. So wink, wink, nod, nod. Do you hear what I'm saying, Mike? So it's never really said, oh, you got to change these talking points. It's all done. It's insinuated. And think about it. There's motive. He had motive because he was number 2. He wanted.
Right.
To be
He was the
CIA
deputy. Pardon me. I missed in the introduction. My apologies.
At the time, but he became. But you're right. Because
he was
became
active.
the acting director for a time. But then, and look where he is now. He has motive for cover-up now because he's in a business that depends upon helping his clients get connected with the intelligence community and CIA. And they make millions probably off of that. And he has incentive for the future because I bet you any money if Hillary Clinton were to become president, I hope that's never the case, she would consider him a loyal ally who towed the line on Benghazi when she needed him to. And, there's certain positions that would be opened up for him in a future administration under Hillary Clinton.
What were
all that's conjecture right now, but I think that there is any reasonable, logical person will conclude that this man, Mr. Morell, has motive or incentive to toe the Obama-Clinton line on Benghazi.
When did the White House know this was a terrorist attack?
I believe that they knew immediately it was a terrorist
Did Gregory
attack.
Hicks communicate that information to them, his superiors, immediately?
He communicated it to his superiors, but you remember he's working through the chain of command. I don't believe that Gregory Hicks was on the phone with any senior officials at the White House. I mean, his chain of command would have been through the State Department, and ultimately, I guarantee you, Hillary Clinton, her senior staff were the only voices of the State Department to the White House on this issue. It's not like the president picks up the phone and finds out what's going on. But you remember that the General Ham testified to and it was in the House Armed Services Committee report that came out a couple months ago, that he testified that he immediately told his superiors, Secretary Panetta, that it was a terrorist attack, that he had no doubt about it. He concluded that immediately. So you had Hicks, who was a senior official on the State Department side. You had General Ham, who was the commander of the armed forces in that area, concluding that it was a terrorist attack. And the only way that President Obama didn't know it was a terrorist attack if he put his fingers in his ears and said, "Don't tell me that, I don't want to hear that," and the other senior staff did that in the White House, because it just doesn't make any sense otherwise. They knew they had a serious political problem on their hands. Their whole narrative that the election was going to be, their whole narrative during the election that Al-Qaeda was defeated and on the run was quickly folding. This whole idea that the Obama campaign was trying to project that Barack Obama killed Osama bin Laden and he was a tough, national security-minded commander-in-chief was falling apart. The whole idea that Barack Obama was a great manager of the government and our national security forces was being decimated and destroyed instantaneously by this supposedly unforeseen attack.
But yes. No, not at all. I appreciate it. And I want to go to the president here when he said in the October 16th debate with Mitt Romney, "I called it a terrorist attack," in the Rose Garden, September 12th, that morning. We know from the context and the paragraphs between the statement and the specific with the mention of Benghazi that there's 4 paragraphs between the specific mention. He also was interviewed by Steve Croft, I believe that night, who pointed out the president did not call it, went out of his way not to call it a terrorist attack. The president concurred. So we have two stories from the president. One, he knew it was a terrorist attack. He called it a terrorist attack. He identified it as a terrorist attack. October 16th, not a terrorist attack. I'm confused. Help me out here, Buzz.
Well, you're not. I don't think you're the only one that's confused about it. Barack Obama and the White House lied to the American people about the cause of the Benghazi attack because they had their whole election hopes were riding on it. And if the truth came out, if we knew now what we knew then, if the American people knew now if American people knew then what they know now, I believe that would have been enough to put Mitt Romney in the Oval Office, and we would have a President Romney, and we would have no longer have President Obama. But they carried it on. They knew it. They continue to cover it up. Because
how long did they carry it on? The YouTube video inspired protest morphed into attack.
Weeks. Yeah, that was for the better part of 2 weeks. They carried on this narrative when there is no question about it. And when you hear all these people testifying and all these reports come out about who called it a terrorist attack immediately, there's no way that did not did not rise up to the Oval Office. It just doesn't even seem logical. In my experience at the White House and understanding how things got from the field, whether it be Libya or our southwest border or wherever, to the Oval Office, there's no question about it. I mean, the only way that they could have not known is if they purposely ignored it. So it's this plausible deniability thing. Make sure, hey, the chief of staff says, hey, make sure you don't tell the president that Benghazi was actually a terrorist attack, because that way he can go out and quote unquote truthfully say, I didn't know. I don't know it's a terrorist attack. It's a video. That's the best I know. I mean, it's just a game. It's just a huge game, and it's shameful, and it's despicable, and it's sad, and it dishonors the memory of the 4 Americans who died, and dishonors the memory of all the honest people who serve in government and who risk their lives every day, like station chiefs around the world, for example.
They said it was a body blow. They said it was a body blow, that they did not go with Hicks's account, that it was a body blow to the Intelligence Committee in the field. Catherine Herridge said that yesterday.
No doubt about it. Of course it's a body blow. Think about this. It's some bureaucrats sitting in an office, in a safe office in Washington, D.C., who are overruling the people who are essentially taking bullets in the field. It just doesn't seem right. It's just not the way our system's supposed to work. Now, granted, in the intelligence officials, and there's a lot of great analysts, by the way. There are some superb analysts, and sometimes when you're on the ground, you don't have the global vision. You don't have the full perspective of everything that's going on. But in this case, it's just not believable that they couldn't have had the full perspective. I mean, they were there. They were looking these guys in the eye.
What were the ambassador's last words? That he communicated, I believe, to Gregory Hicks. If I'm not mistaken, we were under attack. We're under attack.
That is it.
Has that been reported? Am I off on that? No, you're fine.
Like yeah, it's something exactly like that. And there was no question about it. And you're going to hear in the next couple of months 4 survivors on the ground who were there, who went to the special mission compound as part of the rescue team, who then went to the CIA annex and defended the terrorists who came to the building next to them and started, in an organized manner, started attacking them. The same ones who killed Glenn Doherty and Ty Woods. You're going to hear the 4 survivors from that night are going to come out with a book with some more explosive allegations. And this issue is not going away. As much as Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton want this issue to disappear. And
we just want the truth. That's what we want. And how are we going to get that? What you're doing, it seems to me, From day one, you said, look, I'm not playing political games here. Yes, you were a member of the Bush administration. You worked with the Bush administration. You understand the issues, Homeland Security, et cetera, in certain capacities. But you're doing this so the truth can come out. Yesterday, we get a lot of statements and more of a maze than clarity. What you are doing is you're saying, look, we are making a movie about what actually happened. And if we have that movie, we can point to it and people can be informed, because right now they're trying to marginalize Benghazi. Final thoughts, Buzz? Pardon me.
That's exactly right, Crane, and thank you for that. We are trying to take what is happening over a very long period of time now and condense it down into a very understandable, entertaining movie that will tell the truth, in a manner that the mainstream media will never, ever, ever tell, in a way that HBO will never, ever tell. We're just going to lay it on the line, and some of it is not going to be necessarily good for Republicans. I mean, just look at the simple
but
fact
this is
that
not. But once again, you've said from day one, we've talked. I appreciate you. I appreciate your work. But this is not about R's or D's. This is about the truth. That's what you're doing. If people want to learn more, Benghazi9-11.com. I'm going to share the Facebook page again so people can go to nothingbuttruth.com and they can learn more about your project. Yes?
Thanks, Train. Thank
yes.
you. God
Thank
bless you
you.
for what you're doing. Thanks for keeping this issue alive. It's very important. We got to.
We'll do it till we get to the truth, and we appreciate you. Thank you, Buzz.
Thank you.
Benghazi9-11.com. Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth. Wish I had more time, don't we all? I can't wait to see my family next week at Share-a-thon. Looking forward to you all participating. Hey, live with honor in your life, compassion in your heart. Always keep the faith in Jesus Christ. God knows you, loves you. He created you. You're worth it. AF